David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. It seems like over the last few weeks I have been featuring some smaller companies, and this week I have another one for you. But this one is a bit different. I like when a pen brings something a bit unique to the table, and the pen I will be sharing with you today is certainly unique. The name of the company is Michaels Pens, and the name of the pen is the Fat Boy. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this rather chunky offering, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. There are some things that I really liked about this pen, but also there's some areas for improvement that I feel as well. Thanks go out to Michaels Pens for providing this pen you will see today for review. I became aware of Michaels Pens while attending pen shows. Over the last few years, I've seen them at a number of shows, and their pens have intrigued me. The gentleman behind the brand is Michael Hochstetler. He started designing pens in the early 1990s. His efforts actually resulted in 2 U.S. patents for ergonomic designs with twisting grips. He worked with the manufacturing partner to produce a product called the Worm Pen, which was sold in Walmart and other mass market retailers. The company currently produces a ballpoint pen called the Spiral, which utilizes that same ergonomic spiraling design. But as I said, the pen I have to show you today is called their Fat Boy. So in order to get a look at this girthy offering, please join me over here at camera 2. I'm going to start here a little bit wider because this pen does come in a rather large box. Not necessarily thick, but just a little bit wide. You can see it has the company's name. And then inside we have a few things. There is a use and care guide. Here's some information about other Michaels offerings. And then there is some warranty information and some more instructions. And then inside we have a pen, as well as a stand. Let me go ahead and take these out and set this stuff aside. Okay, to begin with, you saw that the pen comes with this nice little stand. It has some ball bearings in it, and then it even spins. And so I kind of like that even when you're not using the pen, this kind of acts as a bit of a fidget toy. But the pen does fit in here as well, and you can spin it around. But it stands up here nicely. I know we're looking at it straight down, but it does stand nicely. And I kind of like the fact that this particular model with the orange copper color has the orange copper here in the stand. So it matches nicely. And here is the pen. This is Michaels Fat Boy. And as you can see, it is a rather girthy pen. The pens are manufactured here in the U.S. and made from aircraft-grade aluminum, and it has a nice copper orange anodization on the end, or on the end, but on the exterior here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the parts and features of this pen. Here at the top, there is a little bit of a hole. Now, it is sealed with some plastic, I assume, but I just think it's an interesting design element. But I was trying to think of what purpose it would serve. Maybe if the window was a bit larger, then you can get a glimpse of the nib in there, but it's too small for that. But there's nothing inherently wrong with it. You could see, I don't know if you could really see in the light. No, you really can't see it. Maybe a little bit. But there does some plastic in there, and you can see through the hole. But then when the pen is capped, you really can't see anything on the inside. But it does add an extra interesting design element to it. Then we have the clip. Now, this is going to be a lot of talking about a clip. It has the company name of Michaels, but it's not really straight, not really aligned straight. Let me kind of hold it straight here, and you can see that it's a little bit straighter on the left-hand side, and it's a little more angled on the right. Now, I wondered if this was a design choice to have it kind of flat on one side and angled on the other, but in looking at example pictures on the company's site, I'm not sure about that. There's examples where clips are aligned as these are, but then there's others in varying alignment. The one on the bottom here looks a little bit more aligned, so maybe a little bit more consistency here might be a little bit nice. Okay, something else that I was wondering about that took me down a bit of a rabbit hole. The company's name is Michaels with an apostrophe S. But here on the clip, with the letters vertical like this, there is no apostrophe, which got me thinking, what technically correct in this situation. So do you put the apostrophe after the L or before the S? Somewhere else? I did some searching on the internet and come to find out one of my favorite blogs back in 2015 had a post about this very topic. The blog is called UniWatch, and it focuses mainly on the intricacies of sports uniforms. If you like delving into insane detail about a niche subject, then I would highly recommend it. And we know nothing about delving into insane detail about a niche subject, right? Well, I'll put a link to the blog in the notes below, and the blog was kind enough to give me permission to use their pictures. Well, in this post, the question was asked, what is correct? The answer isn't simple. Here are some examples of signs. You can put the apostrophe in front of the last letter. You could put it after the next to last letter. You could also put it in between the last two letters, flush on the right. Or you could put it centered between the last two letters. This situation has so much ambiguity that even McDonald's can't decide on the proper way to do it. The final consensus in the article was that there was technically no correct way to do it. It was really all up to personal discretion and opinion. Personally, I care for the version where the apostrophe is after the second to last letter. But on this one, they just chose to leave the apostrophe off altogether. And that's enough apostrophe talk, so let's go ahead and get back to the pen. On the cap, it is straight. It does have a little indentation here at the end that kind of aligns with the clip, which I think is an interesting element to the design. And then it's straight. And the cap overall is not that long. It is fairly short. Then we have a medium-sized step down to the barrel, which begins with this rubber grip section with 3 separate rubberized or rubber grip sections. And then there is the barrel, which is straight. And then here on the end, we have an O-ring and then some threads for posting. And then on the very end, there's another indentation, but this one doesn't contain a window. This is just an indentation that kind of matches the element that is here on the top of the cap. Now, let's go ahead and unscrew this. The cap twists off with one rotation, and that, as I mentioned, the grip section has this rubber on it. And I actually find it very comfortable to use. I'm a big fan of big, thick, girthy sections, and this certainly is one. The nib that is on here is a broad nib, and it is a Schmidt nib. And then, is it broad? Yes, it is broad. And then that's what the plastic feed looks like. Now, there is a bit of, did I even get that in the frame? There's what the plastic feed looks like. Now, this does look like a rather daunting transition here to where it's a little bit thinner, and then we have the threads, and then there's an O-ring, and then there's the grip. And if this was just like a metal section or something like that, I'd be afraid that my grip would slip off the end here and would be uncomfortable. But I do find this plastic, or this rubber, well, I keep calling it plastic, rubber, to be very comfortable, and it does a very good job of helping you maintain your grip. Your grip really isn't going anywhere. And I do like the fact that there's 3 sections here. And so if you like to grip your pen a little bit further back, it still gives you the same benefits of that rubber as if you were gripping it near the front. This is one of the things that I think could be improved upon. Maybe you heard that, but when I am unscrewing the barrel, you can hear that squeak. In essence, that is the O-ring that's in here. So it's nice that there's an O-ring that is there to help seal the barrel, but I just don't... Now, I don't have an answer as to what could prevent that from happening. Maybe a little silicone grease or something like that, but I just don't like the fact that it squeaks whenever you open the barrel like that. And then sometimes it can squeak when you are capping and uncapping the pen as well. Also, something that I notice is that when you are capping and uncapping this pen, you really need to grip it by the rubber portion here to go ahead and uncap it. Because there's been times when I am holding it back here and twisting it, and you can see I'm untwisting the barrel as opposed to removing the cap. Now, sometimes if it's on there really good, now that it worked fine, but there's just been times where sometimes it unscrews the barrel. This pen does accept standard international cartridges. I don't know, it is embedded in there a bit, so I'm not sure how a short cartridge it would work, or if that would really be great, but I think that you could use a long cartridge with this fine. This is a screw-in converter, and that the company actually recommends that you go ahead and basically you could fill up the converter and then insert the converter back into the section, as opposed to inking it up here, because if you ink it up, let's say the more traditional way, you're going to get some ink here, and you can see I have a little bit of ink in here. That just might be from using the pen, but in order to extract, if once you ink it, you're going to get a lot of ink in here, and it would take kind of a moist cloth or a damp towel or something like that to clean it. So like I said, they recommend that you unscrew the converter and fill the converter, and then go ahead and insert that back into the section. This is a number 6 Schmidt nib, and it is available in fine, medium, and broad. This cap, while it's small, it is rather hefty. I mean, this cap right here is almost twice the weight of a Lamy Safari. So even though it doesn't weigh that much, you can see here that it is rather thick. And it does post here on the end. I will say that the weight here does add a little bit of, it does backweight the pen here and kind of throws off the balance a little bit. This is kind of a large, heavy pen, and so I really don't feel personally the need to go ahead and post this. And, but then I don't necessarily mind the threads in the back, but then there's the O-ring back here. So I don't necessarily like posting it, but then I'm not a huge fan of just the way it looks with the O-ring and the threads exposed here on the back when it isn't posted. Now, the retail price for this particular pen on the Michaels Pens website is $250, which I feel is adequate for what you receive with this pen. I will say that the company's site is a bit dated. It's a bit tough to figure out what's actually in stock. The best way to purchase this pen would probably be at a pen show. You might want to reach out to the company directly through their site if you have a question about when a particular model might be back in stock, or if they'll be at a show that you will be attending. Now, I know I pointed out a number of things about this pen that I felt could be improved, but I don't feel it's a bad pen. As you'll see in the writing sample, it performs very well, and I enjoy using it. With some pens, you're more likely to put up with a few more quirks. Do I need an entire collection full of quirky pens? No, but having a few is fine in my book. So, okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and that writing sample. So here we go with some size comparisons for the Michaels Fat Boy. And I thought that I would use some other kind of thick and chunky pens. This one here is the Delta Dolce Vita Oversize. And then this one here is the Michael Martin OG Chonk. And then over here we have the Edison Collier Grande. And so that's what it looks like in comparison to those three large pens. In regard to some other pens, this is what it looks like with a Leonardo Momento Zero Grande and a Visconti Homo Sapiens. And then finally, here it is with a Pilot Custom 823. In regard to uncapped comparisons, here it is with that Delta Dolce Vita Oversize, which has a very chunky section as well. And then this is with the Matthew Martin OG Chonk. And then this is with the Collier Grande from Edison. And for this pen, the section is a little bit smaller. So it's almost, I'm going to say smaller, but in comparison to the size of the pen, it's still a little bit thicker than most Edison models, but it's a little bit smaller than the rest of the size of the pen. But I do enjoy the section on all 4 of these pens. Here we go with the writing sample for the Michaels Fat Boy. And this is a broad stainless steel nib. Had one little railroading right there. And the ink that I'm using right now is Robert Oster. And that would be Rust Orange. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice vibrant orange with that's a little bit on the darker side, as opposed to something like the Ackerman Orange A Bovin, which is really one of my favorite bright oranges, as well as the Anderillium Flapjack Octopus Orange. And this is what the bottle looks like. And this particular color is exclusive to Galen Leather. I'm not sure if they still have it, but that is where you could find it if you like this color. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. Am I going to fit? Dog down here. I will say that even though this is a broad nib, it kind of writes more on the medium side of broad. You can get a little bit of line variation out of there if you push it hard. I always felt that Schmidt nibs are a bit underrated, but they do have a tendency to be on the I want to say more on the Japanese side, but just so more on the finer side of the individual tipping sizes. In regard to ink flow, I think this one is more on the medium side. In regard to some reverse writing, it is a little bit sharp. But it does lay down an extra fine line. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up fine. I think it might have railroaded there earlier just because I had it uncapped for a while under the lights. But other than that, I really haven't had any issues with any skipping or railroading with this pen at all. So there we have the Michaels Fat Boy. As soon as I saw this at a show, it was a pen that intrigued me and one that I wanted to check out. So I would highly encourage you, if you're at a pen show and see the Michaels gang there, to go ahead and check it out, as well as check out their website. And I'll put a link to it in the notes below. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.